Welcome to Save Point Sass, where every checkpoint comes with hot takes, chaotic tangents, and a little bit of shade.
Two queer gamers, wildly different play styles. Breaking down what we're playing, what's going on in gaming culture, and what deserves a health potion or a rage quit.
This is Save Point Sass. Load in, level up, and stay petty.
All right.
Welcome to another episode of Save Point Sass.
Welcome back.
The big news today, we've completed our third viewing of Avatar.
Yes,
Fire
but
and
this is a podcast about games, not movies.
And because we've been watching Avatar so much, you've been very interested in finishing this Avatar Frontiers game so you can get to the DLC.
Yeah, so...
And finally this week you did.
Yep, I finally beat the game. I've had it for a while. I think I got it shortly after launch. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. It itself is a huge game with a massive map. And because of that, I spent about 20 hours in the first area of the map. And yeah, then I kind of fell off the game.
Yeah, but now you've... How many hours do you think you've put into the base game now? Now that you've completed it?
I think the counter says 65 hours.
That's a lot of showings of Avatar.
No, that's exactly 3 for a single person. Or 2, rather.
Yeah. Oh, you mean, yeah.
Dolby 3D is $30 a ticket.
Yeah, so maybe, do you want to tell us a little bit what your overall impressions of the base game are? Or maybe you want to tell us a little bit about the DLC that you've started?
I guess I'll do a little bit of both. So, base game is basically like capture the fort. There are there are a number of bases that dot the map, and your job is to defeat the RDA at those bases and liberate all of the wildlife and all of the Na'vi that are in that area, as well as get rid of the pollution that they're causing. And so it's, in that way, quite simple. You just go across the map and try to take as many bases as you can. Where it kind of becomes something transformative is that you are a Na'vi, and so you have to learn beyond what you see in the movies, right? The movies are stunning, and you see everything in passing, but you don't really know anything about anything that you see. So the game kind of challenges you to learn, like, what the animals, do, where they go, how they behave, what plants you need, because you need to cook. Because if you don't eat, it negatively affects you. If your ikran, the flying animal that you ride, if it doesn't eat, it has negative effects. Also, you need to contribute to tribes, because that's kind of their culture, bartering and sharing. So that's kind of where the game really shines, is leaning into the Avatar anthropology, hanging out, kind of enculturation angle, and kind of loops you back into feeling, well, yeah, I should defeat the evil RDA who are poisoning the rivers and the forests and kidnapping people. I should defeat them.
Yeah, I mean, you had mentioned that this game was very strong at world building in ways that, you kind of mentioned the movie started, right, and then the game seemed to take that and go twice as far.
Yeah, so I think base game is pretty interesting, but like I said, I spent 20 hours in the first area. It's not an easy game. And I'll be honest and say that for the first 20 hours, I actually played it on normal. Yeah. And it's not easy because the RDA have, basically they read your inputs. So they can see through walls, they can shoot you through walls.
Their AI.
The AI is very turned up. So I had to turn it on easy after the first 20 hours because taking each base was so difficult. And, I have a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
So I turned it to easy, and it's still hard. But I spent all that time in the first area, and basically that was enough, I thought, for a game itself. Not necessarily story-wise, but I felt like, oh, this is a strong arc, and if that's all the game was, I kind of would have been impressed by that.
Yeah.
But then I moved on to the second and third major regions, and I was just floored because not only did the story take a turn that I could not have imagined, but also the world is just massive.
Mm-hmm.
I would compare it to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Or maybe not as big as Odyssey, but maybe Origins level of expansive map. So, yeah. I think the game for $60 is an amazing deal.
Yeah.
And now it's on sale, so people can get it for like $17.99 on Steam or whatever.
I mean, what do you think of, like, maybe people who are not gamers but are like the Avatar concept?
I think that they kind of threw them a bone by introducing the third person mode because that's brand new. So when I was playing those first 20 hours, it was just an FPS, a first person shooter. Now after Fire and Ash released, that same day they released a DLC that put in the third person mode, and I think that helps a lot of people. But at the same time, like I said, the game is really not easy.
Yeah. I mean, I saw you having to like optimize your builds and collect items to make sure you have the most proper weapons.
Yeah, so I was trying to brute force it because I was uneasy. So I'm like, well, I know how to attack these certain enemies, and I know what things to prioritize. And I kind of got to a mission that before I even got there, I knew that it was going to be big. And so I had read online how so many people got stuck.
Yeah.
So after that, I started to take gearing much more seriously. So that meant I had to hunt and gather and craft and kind of like get myself together before I move forward. But I think that if you're a fan of Avatar, the game does really put you through what the main characters of the movies go through. So definitely like puts you in their shoes and you feel the struggle of, I'm fighting back against the RDA, but they have all this technology and they have all these bases, and the amount of power that they have is overwhelming compared to if you just use the native Na'vi weapons, which is the arrows and the skull thrower. And so you really get that sense of, wow, like in this third movie, you think you're winning, and then the very next second you're like, oh, well, I'm not winning anymore because 3 massive airships just dropped off, 3 massive robots each, and 2 of them have flamethrowers and the other ones have assault rifles. And there's also sharpshooters waiting, and guess what? Everybody has perfect aim and can hit me through the walls and trees and everything. So, you kind of do get the sense of danger and difficulty in overcoming and resisting the RDA, which is cool. And I wonder if they'll release some more patches to kind of make it easier so people can make it through. But I got to the end of the game, and to be honest, the last section of the game was much easier than I expected because so much had been so difficult up to that point. So it was much easier than I expected. And, after the 65 hours, I was ready for more. And what I've heard is, because I'm in the first DLC, which I think is Skies of the Highland. Oh, no, the Great Plains or the Great Highlands.
And this is the one that had already been released, even before the third movie.
Yeah, so these are 2 DLCs that release before the current DLC that's out. And so you go to like a new zone. It's weird because it's like a completely different game. It like tells you before you go to the DLC, like you will not be able to return to the main story.
Yeah.
Until you complete the entirety of the DLC. It deloads the map, so you can never go back to the main story map, and you go to a completely different map, which is also massive. The graphics kind of get like a bump up, which is strange because the base game looks gorgeous already. And I've basically been exploring because it's so beautiful. And I like the traversal in the new zone. But what I have been is forewarned by the online chatter that this DLC is actually quite difficult. So more difficult than even the base game. So I'll have to figure out.
And do you have to finish this DLC to get to the Fire and Ash DLC?
I think at this point I actually can just go to the Fire and Ash DLC, but I kind of want to go in order. I'm like that type of person who's like, this is the order they came out in. There must be some rhyme or reason to it. So let's just do it in that order. So I'm trying to go in the release order. I've been having a great time with the game. I know you've watched me play a little bit, and I've often been like, hey, look at this because it's so beautiful and I want you to see the graphics.
Yeah, I mean,
but what's your impression of the game?
I mean, mine has mainly been the graphics because that's what I've been seeing, right? And we've talked about that before. Of like, it feels very immersive, almost like you are in the film.
Yep,
pretty much, right? We were trying to test our capabilities because right now you're playing it on the PlayStation 5, right?
Yep,
and
non-pro,
fancy PC, right? And still, at least from my eyes, it seemed top tier,
good,
right? It looked pretty good. I'm excited to play it. I am hearing your warnings of difficulty, and yeah, I don't do that good with difficulty, so maybe I will play it on easy, right? Just to get the experience, right? I think that's kind of what I was wondering of like, did they make this game knowing that there's going to be this demographic of gamers who maybe like the Avatar IP, but they are not like huge shooters, or they're not. I mean, even you are not a huge first-person
player.
Yeah, and yet this has drawn your attention.
I think that's the interesting thing because a lot of people would think that this is the first Avatar game. In fact, I was thinking like this is the first Avatar game, but it's not. There have been other games. And it's very interesting that the very first Avatar game says James Cameron's Avatar.
Yeah.
As the title, right?
And what does this one say?
And this one does not say James Cameron's Avatar. So I wonder if there is a difference that, you're right. Like, for me saying how difficult this game is, that doesn't necessarily match with people who love the IP as a movie coming in and playing, right? So it's a bit puzzling, like what their thought process was in making this game so difficult. But I think maybe their feelings were the same as mine, which is, well, you have to struggle, otherwise it's meaningless. Yeah. If the RDA can just be defeated so easily, then why in the movie, is everybody getting killed?
Yeah.
So
that's also why the movies are so long.
Which is why the movies are so long. But I think one interesting thing in seeing some of the clips of the James Cameron Avatar game, which I believe was a PS2 game or PS3 game versus this game, is a lot of the elements of the world and the gameplay are actually the same. And I was gagged to see that. Like, the old game actually is visually stunning. And, it's just as dense.
Yeah.
Like, the world is crafted in a very similar way, where its main aim is to really immerse you in Pandora. Rather than saying, okay, well, gameplay comes first, so we can't have, like, tons and tons of foliage or huge trees. Even back then, they were pushing what these machines could do. They were pushing the limits of the machines. But I think, the reception has been great for this game. And I think, like, the Steam player count was, like, 15,000. It was steadily going up and up and up. And I think it even got into the PlayStation Network's top charts for this month.
Oh, yeah?
So I think the gamer response has been huge. And I'm happy. I'm happy that the movie's doing well. I'm happy that the game is doing well, because it's not often that you get a game story that's so dedicated to the narrative of resistance and liberation like this game. So, yeah. I hope you do play it, but I get it, because this is
I think I definitely will play it. Will I finish it? Is another question. I mean, what, you put 65 hours in, right?
Yep.
So it'll probably take me 85 hours. Add me an extra 20 hours. But I'm definitely interested in playing it, and it seems like you are going to at least try to finish the DLC, maybe? Or
yes. Soon.
Yeah. So maybe you'll give us your impressions if you can make it to the Fire and Ash DLC.
And then I think that, I'm going to make it. I mean, those DLCs were not cheap.
Yeah. Well, if you could make it before Avatar 4.
Oh, definitely. But I think that, I do hope that these DLCs are a little bit easier. But speaking of difficulty, I was kind of interested because you're saying that, like, maybe you're a little afraid of playing Avatar because of its difficulty. But right now you're playing Prime, and I wanted to know how you're feeling.
Yeah, so I've been playing Metroid Prime after 4, after you finish the game. I've been desperately trying to keep it on normal mode, and I've been seeing the challenge.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it's a bit... Honestly, I got what you're saying of like that perseverance aspect of you're playing through them and you're just getting knocked out time and time again, and slowly you're inching further towards the completion.
Yep. And
then finally you beat the boss, and it's very rewarding, kind of knowing that you beat it at the expected level, and kind of this triumphant victory that you feel. I feel that, right? While I'm playing this Metroid game. I mean, overall I'm enjoying it. I think I got to this one particular boss, this Omega Griever.
Yeah.
Right. That was where I was like tossing the controller, getting fed up with how am I even supposed to defeat this? How is this even possible? And I was asking you, and I was looking online, and it is a formidable boss, right? It is supposed to be difficult, right?
Yep.
And I honestly thought I would not be able to beat it without turning it to casual, but somehow, I did it, but like it took me so many tries. I was trying. Do I do it handheld? Do I do it TV? Do I use my Joy-Cons? Do I use my Pro controller? Do you
want to explain what was actually the difficulty in the fight?
Yeah. So one of the main issues was actually having to do with the controls, right? They give you this option to lock onto enemies to create your aim. But the unique part of this boss was that there were only certain elements of the creature that could take damage, and those elements could not be locked onto.
Yeah.
So
and they got smaller,
got smaller, and they were always moving, and you were kind of in this enclosed area where it was dashing around the world or the stage.
Yeah.
So you really had to try to use the controls to manually maneuver to where it needed to be shot. And in order to do that, I did have to turn on motion controls, right? Which
it worked for you. Motion controls?
It worked a little bit better with motion controls, but I would say that motion controls, as implemented in this game, I've seen better, right? Especially with the Joy-Cons that have gyro. Like Splatoon is one of the games that I like to play. I think that's a great example of the motion controls done really well. Here, I felt like you saw me. I think I spent like at least 10-15 minutes trying to finagle the controls and see like which sensitivities, which toggles should I have on and off to get to something that feels kind of okay. And then you even tried once on the controls that I was using, and you were like, what in the hell is happening here?
Yeah, this is crazy. Because when I played, I think after the first couple of hours, I was trying to figure out a way to turn motion controls off. And I don't think there was a way initially, but they released a patch. And then I was like, oh, you can turn... And I looked online and somebody was like, yeah, you can turn them off now. So I turned them off. Then when I tried to play with your setup, not only was it the motion controls just insane to me. I think nothing about having the motion controls on works.
Yeah.
Despite them saying in the interview that they work so hard to like make it seamless, I feel like it is just a mess. But even beyond that was the fact that the motion controls were desyncing as I was attempting to play.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Is that they're for as much effort they put into the motion controls, you can tell that this was not their bread and butter, right? That maybe they were learning from the ground up how to implement this wisely.
Yeah.
Right, and maybe like it looks like it should be working correctly. It's got all the correct settings. It's got all the kind of correct, but then when you actually try to use it falters a little bit. Yeah. All that to say is maybe that's part of the immersion of, well, you have these wonky controls and you are in this very dire environment, right? Now step up and try to beat the boss.
That brings something to mind, which is, do the controls to you feel like they match Samus? Because that's one thing that I was thinking about.
Well, from this game, I don't know who Samus is. Right?
Well, that brings me to my next question, which is, okay, you've battled the controls significantly, just like everybody else who's played the game. And so far, you've been able to persevere. But do you feel like it's been worth it? What do you think of the story?
I think it has taken me on a journey. So right now, and it's had peaks and valleys, right? I think where the game excels is what Metroid has done in the past, which is the dungeon areas and the boss, the kind of the other elements of the bosses and fighting and the light puzzling throughout the dungeons. I think is very clever and very well done. I think where it's faltering is where it's trying to be this grand open world design, right? And right now I kind of am in the slog of the desert, where it seems like after you've beat the 5th dungeon, before you get to the final area that I presume is the central tower, they kind of have this kind of side quest almost of all these things that bring you back to the desert.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for the person who's going to give me the teleport keys, right? And then I'm using those teleport keys to then find more things in the desert, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the whole first part of the game, the desert really was just the way you navigated to different dungeons. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden, you're in this kind of hour arc of now just traverse this desert. Yeah. Find all these green crystals, find the mech parts, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe it would be appreciated better if it was woven throughout the story, right? So that it's not necessarily that, well, you just completed these 5 amazing dungeons, so now go through the desert. Maybe it was in between dungeons. Maybe it would be a little bit more palatable. But right now, after going through the huge boss battle and defeating all these dungeons,
you felt tired.
It kind of feels like, well, this is just like a unnecessary part. You would cut this out of a movie, right? this doesn't make any sense. And I think I can see how it kind of adds to the story, right? Now that I've gotten to the last dungeon, you kind of bring back all the people that you've met.
Do you have a favorite?
This one, I was thinking we could do like a what's our stack ranking of all
I don't have a ranking,
but I think my favorite is Mackenzie, right?
Okay.
So good old Mackenzie Clippy, Microsoft Clippy.
Yeah, I like Miles.
Miles is
his
nice.
First name.
Yeah, Miles is the
Mackenzie.
Oh, Mackenzie. Okay, I thought you were talking about. Okay, yeah. I guess I didn't know his first name.
Yeah, they said it just a couple of times.
Okay. And then the other two are the sergeant and the
newbie.
The newbie, which I think is a nice dynamic.
Yeah.
Then the robot, which I think was interesting. The
robot's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they had introduced the robot a little bit earlier,
Me
because
too.
basically he just gets introduced right before this climactic battle of the dungeon, right? And then he kind of happens to leave at the very beginning.
Yeah.
He ends up kind of there's still more story to him, but
it's unfortunate how short the time.
Yeah, how short your time with him is.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's so much elements of story here that maybe if they had like 10% more polish, right, or if there was more
exposition. It's like they have all plot, no exposition.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think both of our favorite parts of the game have been the cutscenes.
Yeah,
which, as we've saw online, right, has kind of been created by a different arm of the game.
Yeah, in the interview, he said that they outsourced the cutscenes.
Right, they outsourced the cutscenes. But that really is where all the story is coming from, where all the flash and bang visually is coming from.
Yeah.
So maybe if there were ways to weave that back into the actual game, might have been nice. But right now, I'm still looking for the mech parts in the dungeon, or sorry, in the desert, right? And I will say, I thought it was ridiculous that they make you look for the guy. What's his name? It starts with Takabi. Across the whole desert, right?
Yeah.
And I looked online, and I guess there were like certain things that they might have said that would indicate hints of like, look out for the smoke or look out for the harmonica sound. But I don't recall him saying that Mackenzie.
Yeah.
But maybe I just missed him saying it.
I don't remember him saying that either, and it's interesting because I saw the smoke and I was like, well, a lot of shit got destroyed. So I don't know if this is anything meaningful.
Yeah.
And then I actually had to look it up online too because I could not find him. And I was like going around and around. I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous. And then I saw someone comment like, the smoke. And I was like, not the smoke.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is that now as I'm going through the dungeon, the desert to collect the crystals and the mech parts, I'm stumbling upon these shrines.
Yeah.
Which are clever, right? And they give you these
it's like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild, and they give you these kind of upgrades, which honestly I'm not sure how necessary they are, the upgrades to your weapons. But the shrines themselves are nice. But again, it's unfortunate because I'm stumbling upon all of them at the very end. Yeah. While I'm going through this desert, where I feel like it would have been more
really significant.
They're not. They're like kind of maybe
5 minute
one room, like 5 minute thing, right? And clearly, I'm guessing that you have to go through them to get these huge crystal swarms that are in the shrines, right? So again, like this whole thing of like, well, now I got to collect all these crystals, right? And I got to collect all these mech parts, and it all happens after you've beaten all 5 dungeons. If I think it would have been smarter if they had a way to intersperse that throughout the story, so then you're building up to something that is more climactic than using your RC cart to go through the desert.
I think that's actually the craziest thing that I've read online is that people have been going through to see like what you can do if you don't progress in the dungeons. And like people are like, well, it's open world, and so and Mackenzie kind of says that you can like go at your own discretion. Yeah. But and people kind of went with that and said, well, you do have autonomy. But now people are really testing that, and they're like, well, actually, you have no autonomy. You have to go in order for the dungeons. And they're like, actually, you cannot gather all the green crystals before you go to all the areas. So, and the shrines, too, all that stuff doesn't unlock fully until after you finish everything. Yeah. So you basically have no autonomy. It's actually a linear story, just spread out.
Which I think is actually kind of this Metroid idea of like the backtracking aspect, right? It just happens to be under this facade, this backdrop of an open world. But even though we're in this open world, really you're right, it is linear, right? Because of how things are unlocked and how things are blocked with these various, locks that are designed for certain elemental weapons that then are unlocked under certain dungeons, which have to be unlocked after previous dungeons because there's another lock that is only, right? So even though it looks like there's open world elements to this, really there is a singular progression that you can take through the game, even with the shrines.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to get to the end.
Yeah, honestly, that felt like that boss battle, the Omega Griever, felt like the climactic battle to me. So I'm excited to see how much harder it gets in this final part. Which I don't know. I'm guessing it's the tower. I'm guessing there probably is still a dungeon element to the tower, but maybe it is just the final boss. I will find out soon. But overall, I think your first question was like, am I glad that I played the game, or like, does it feel like a satisfying game to be playing? Overall, it is, right? I can see where people.
How's the difficulty?
Oh, the difficulty. I think. Let me get back to you after the final boss, right? But I was getting very frustrated with this one boss, right? So I think. I think there could have been some TLC done to how do you at least explain the mechanics? How do you make it more intuitive? How to defeat the boss, right? Because the other thing was like they do have the scanning mechanic of the boss. Yeah. Even scanning the boss kind of gave you the wrong impression that it's not that it is invulnerable when it actually is vulnerable, but only to certain areas. Yep. So I think even things like that, like I think simple things like that polish, right? That often doesn't happen when you're in this type of game that has gone through so much toil, right? You're so focused on just getting the game out that you can't put in the TLC, right? That really takes the game to the top level. But I'm excited to beat the game. Hopefully I am able to beat the game without bringing it back to casual, but I'm not trying to lose my mind over Metroid.
Well, you could just give in to the Metroids, which take over your mind.
Yeah. I know.
Yes, that's the lore.
I was gonna say we don't get too much lore in this game. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I will say that it is very unfortunate that they made the decision to not have Samus speak at all. At least, I mean, throughout the main game or throughout this, we hear everyone else speak and talk with passion and have emotion in their voice acting.
Robot. And the robot's funny.
Yeah, and yet all we get are these sly nods or, blank stares from Samus, and it's maybe it gives this mystique, but or maybe they were afraid to reveal that Samus is not a man.
Or they didn't want to pay those SAG actors for voice acting.
But I think that was a big mess. I think there could have been ways to make the story much stronger by just having Samus speak her emotion, rather to give some type of emotional weight to the actions that she's taking.
I think it would be interesting if after this we play Other M. I know you have a Wii U?
A Wii.
You have a Wii.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure Other M is on Wii. So if we could get a copy of it and play through, because that game is much more story, much more characterization of Samus.
And I will say, this game I do appreciate for how retro it feels. A Game Boy Cube era, Wii era. I don't think they did that intentionally, right? But for me, it was kind of stuck in the past. I think that was the right fidelity. So maybe we do go back to some Wii era games or GameCube era games and see what's in store.
Yeah. So what else has been on your mind?
Well, kind of the complete opposite, but actually not. From Metroid has been this Nicktoons game that we've been playing.
Oh yeah,
you picked it up recently, and we were
Nicktoons and the Dice of Destiny.
Dice of Destiny. Ooh. Definitely, it's got this cute nostalgia factor to it. That's kind of maybe what drew us to the game initially. Just a quick, spur of the moment pickup. Right.
I mean, honestly, I thought it was going to be like a cheap license game that was kind of cute. We would play it for a couple of hours. And we had just tried the Cartoon Network Crystal Bashers. That old mobile game that then came to consoles. And I had it for Switch. So we just tried to play it and saw how not good of an experience.
It was cool. It was neat. It was neat, but not very high fidelity.
Not very high fidelity, and also not very deep. It barely had mechanics.
This was something you'd make in Game Maker 3D in 2005.
So I totally thought that's how it was going to be, but I was like, well, the case looks really interesting, and the back of the case looked interesting. So I kind of looked at some reviews, and I was like, oh, it has okay reviews. Although it didn't really have many
reviews.
Many what?
It didn't have many reviews. I don't know what else we were going to say.
No, it didn't have many review videos. So I tried to look online, and all the reviews online were seemingly either an outlet or actually AI.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I don't know what to believe about this game, but nonetheless, I brought it home.
Yeah, and honestly, we've been very pleasantly surprised by the game.
Yeah.
I think this kind of took us for a huge twist for how much of a game it actually is. Yeah. Right? It's got some...
And I think we talked about last time how much we have been enjoying it, but now after playing a little bit more, we see more of the script and...
We're seeing more of the story progression. We're also seeing more of the difficulty. I think we had come into this game kind of being, we're big shots, we can just use one hand and knock everyone out of sight, right? But just where we left off, we ended at this huge boss battle.
Yes,
a very cleverly created boss.
I don't know if I say that. Well, the design.
The design, yes. But it was smacking us good, right? And which was completely unexpected, right?
Yeah.
We were wondering is there going to be elements of difficulty to this game? After that second boss battle, the answer is most definitely.
Yeah.
Right? But again, just to say that the part that I love about the game really is the voice acting, the story, the character development, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what really lures people into these types of games, right? And somehow they got so much voice acting into this game, right? Which then makes me think, well, if they could do this with actual IPs, which must cost a lot of money, surely other games can do it with, just generic characters, right?
True.
One of my Pokemon, whatever, what's his face? You can get any voice actor to do that.
AZ.
You wanted to, yeah. AZ, yeah.
I think it's really interesting that, and we don't know how much this game costs to make or anything like that, which now we do know how much it costs to make basically Metroid, Pokemon ZA, we know how much these games cost, but we don't know how much this game costs, the Nicktoons game costs to make. And I think it's really interesting that whatever they did, however they put this game together, whatever studio they went to, really kind of had a vision and stuck to it.
Right.
And, they made sure the gameplay was solid. We have gotten stuck in a couple of environments.
Actually glitched into certain areas.
Yeah. But for the most part, the environments have been well designed and a little clever.
Yeah.
And I think that, they didn't try to reinvent the wheel, and it worked out.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that's kind of burning me about us coming from Metroid, then going to Avatar, which, to be honest with you, I feel like Avatar is a much better Metroid because they kind of both do the same thing, which is this solitude, discovery of an environment. You kind of learn how to understand the cultures, learn how to understand the enemies, and you get your power-ups, which because you don't level up in Avatar, so you have to literally get stuff from the environment or from RDA. And, so it's in every way a better version of Metroid, although some would argue that the scenario is different and the where it takes place is different, but they're both sci-fi.
Yeah.
On a brand new planet that you don't know as a player. But I think that coming from that and then going to this game, I'm like, man, Nintendo should have just stuck to what they were already doing.
Which was?
And I'll say, and this may be a surprise to you, but I think that online a lot of people are saying this too, they should have just made another Dread. They should have stuck to 2D Samus.
Wait, Nintendo? I thought you were talking about Nickelodeon.
No, I think that
yeah.
Everything about the Nicktoons game is a lot of people are saying it's a Diablo clone. I get that. It's a Pillars of Eternity or a Path of Exile clone.
Yeah, I guess
I get that.
Yeah.
But I think that what was very successful for them and got millions of players was Metroid Dread. Mm-hmm. And then they decided to completely go the other direction with this. And it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, they fell into the trap of making everything open world. And through those interviews we've seen, they recognized that they fell into the trap, but it was too late to get out of the trap. Right? So even they've acknowledged that, okay, we fell into this trap, but here's the game anyways.
But I think this Nicktoons game could have fallen into the same trap of that Cartoon Network game, where it leaned into the IP so strongly and just totally threw environments, threw the script, threw gameplay out the window, and just said, well, players will just eat it up. Whatever we give them, they'll take. And it seems like the developers of this game really put their heart into it. And I don't think it has the highest budget. I mean, you can tell that if you play it.
Sure.
But it's really endearing.
No, yeah. I mean, definitely. Well, first of all, I don't know if this was clear. This was unclear for me from the title, right? But this is not a dice game, right?
Yeah.
The way that Balatro is a card game or Slay the Spire is a card game.
Yep.
I was expecting it to be kind of dice oriented. Slay the Spire.
Well, we have to keep going, but
we'll have to see
the challenges are dice oriented, and that the rewards are determined by your roll.
Right, but there's actual combat. There's moves and different characters and different special effects, and so there's a lot of depth in that regard, right?
Yeah.
Right now, I think we've unlocked maybe 6 or 7 characters, each of which has 4 or 5 or 6 abilities, right? And you can kind of choose which ones you want to use. Luckily, you're able to choose which ones you want to use even during the boss battles.
Which saved us.
I
mean, I stupidly was like, we won't need the healing stuff because it was so easy But we had to both put our healing abilities back on for the boss.
And I guess even to say we've been playing co-op, right, which is a nice addition to the game, right? Yeah. So I think it definitely does work well with the multiplayer.
But I think it seems like it's meant to be played co-op.
I think so too,
because there are no CPU characters.
No. Yeah.
So like if you were to play by yourself, you would.
Do you
think you would have been able to beat the boss?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's also how our characters synergize, because it happened to be funny that we picked two different characters that both had healing abilities.
Yeah.
But your healing ability healed yourself, but then my healing ability also healed other people. So, but then you were able to revive me multiple times.
You know, I would be interested in going back and playing that level again with Timmy, because Timmy's so OP. Yeah. I wonder if the fight would have gone different.
Clearly, Timmy is your favorite because of how OP he is. Yeah. I think my favorite right now probably is. Well, I've been playing Susie a lot, so I think, and just the way you unlock Susie. I mean, the way you unlock all these characters is so unexpected. Yeah. Just from like a nostalgia aspect of like. Look who showed up from the front door, right? And kind of they come in.
I mean, when
house.
Jimmy showed up, you were like, Jimmy!
Yeah, it's like I'm the person in the audience that's cheering when someone walks in the door in all these sitcoms.
But the game also did that, so it's like, Jimmy! Timmy! Timmy!
Yeah.
Even the game script itself knew that the person would be excited playing, and then having the characters...
And those Pearl SpongeBob interactions, like
Pearl is so funny.
What is it? Oh, SpongeBob. The way she says SpongeBob, like that's from the show.
Maybe that's how they got some of it. Is that some of it is reused script from the episode?
Well, now I gotta cross-reference the episodes.
Yeah.
So. But I think we're both excited. This was kind of unexpected. Maybe we were thinking we'd play it for an hour and then just put it away, right? But I think we are kind of getting into it a little bit.
Yep.
Where we're gonna play a few hours here and there, and then see how far we can get before it gets too difficult.
Yeah. Hopefully not too difficult. You know, that brings me to something, which is this Nicktoons game is like not a graphical showcase. And yet this is a Switch 2 version. We're playing on Switch 2, so it does look better than on Switch 1. I'm playing Avatar, which is gorgeous, but it's on PlayStation 5. And obviously, it doesn't look the best it could look on PlayStation 5. It looks pretty good, but not the best it could look. We're having a lot of fun with games that, you know, aren't stunningly beautiful or aren't, I guess you could say, totally pushing the envelope. And now we have the question of next gen. They're already talking about PlayStation 6. They're already talking about the next Xbox. What do you think about that? Are you interested? Are you ready? They're talking about PlayStation 6 will be kind of like a Switch, where it'll have a portable component and a at-home box component.
That's interesting. I haven't heard too much about the news. I think right now I'm content where I'm at, right?
Okay.
I think it's interesting. This generation has been interesting because it actually has been quite a long life cycle, right? But it still feels...
For the Switch.
No. For the Switch and even for the PlayStation, right? PlayStation came out before 2020, I think, right?
No, it came out in 2020.
In 2020, right? But, like, the delays and how hard it was to get, right? And then how long it took to really ramp up to have PlayStation-exclusive games, right? It really feels like I'm just finally now getting to the meat of, well, this is what the PlayStation can showcase. Mm-hmm. So the idea of, well, okay, now let's get to the PlayStation 6, it feels like I haven't even finished getting all the value out of my PlayStation 5 yet, right? So that's where I'm a little bit... Even if they did release the PlayStation 6, maybe it would take me a minute to upgrade, right? Because I think also you're mentioning, well, are we getting lured in by graphics and visual components, or are we getting lured in by story and proper game mechanics? And at least for me, I think it is the latter, right? And that could happen on any console, right? True. Regardless of hardware. What are your thoughts?
No, I think that it's interesting that I also feel like we just hit our stride on PS5. And I mean, I definitely recognize the limitations because I've been playing, like we talked about before, 60 frames per second for a long time because I got a PC and the games I was playing, I could run at 60 frames per second. So I'm kind of sensitive to that thing. But now we've had an update, so now the PlayStation hardware can do 40 frames per second on 120 hertz televisions. We have 120 hertz VRR capable display, so we can take advantage of that. And so I feel, like, okay, we're just hitting our stride, and things look gorgeous. I mean, Horizon Forbidden West looks stunning. Avatar looks stunning. We haven't played Indiana Jones yet, but it looks crazy good.
Yeah.
And Alan Wake 2. So I think that, you're right. It kind of does feel weird that I feel like there's probably more for the PlayStation 5. But also I am intrigued because I have recognized, in some games where there's like not physics. So it'll look beautiful, but there's no physics. So it kind of feels a little bit lifeless.
I mean, the other thing is that we already are kind of a half generation behind, right? Because the Pro has been released.
True.
And how we felt the need to upgrade to the Pro, I'm not sure.
I don't think... I've had a thought or two about it, but what I know about it would not cause me to upgrade. The price difference, it doesn't really make sense to me. And that brings me to my next thing, which is, well, I wouldn't think about upgrading my PlayStation 5, but I currently have an RX 6750 XT.
Which is now valued at $5,000.
I wish. And the thing that I do get thoughts of upgrading is my graphics card.
Yeah.
And we've had this whole situation with the RAM and, Nvidia, CES just happened. Nvidia says no new graphics cards. AMD says no new graphics cards. And also they're saying, well, because of the RAM shortage, our current graphics cards are going to now be twice as expensive. And, how do you feel about that? That actually we might be forced to stay in this generation for maybe 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Because, high-end hardware, cutting-edge hardware may be unobtainable for us as consumers.
I think it's timely, right? And I think probably a lot of people are in the same boat of, well, I'm comfortable where I'm at, and you're telling me that the next generation is going to be twice as expensive for unknown value. Sure, I'll stay contently and happily, right?
Yeah.
I think there's like, maybe if there was aspects of, well, you would get better story or get better gameplay mechanics or better physics, and everything would be such grander. Maybe there's a value add for having the twice as cost, but like if it's saying, well, we're getting marginal improvement and marginal, now the foliage is 1.15x better than it was on the Pro, right? Then I don't think there's justification there, right? And I think we might see people stay on the generation that we're on right now for much longer. Maybe even until the next generation. Kind of the same thing that we were seeing with phones, where iPhones used to be a yearly upgrade, and then it was like every other year, and then now it's every 3 years and every 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's something we'll actually see with the PlayStation 5 or consoles in general. Because also PlayStation 5 might be the only console, right? If Xbox leaves the...
So you're totally throwing Nintendo to the...
Yeah,
Nintendo's still a console.
Nintendo's still a console.
But I think, what's interesting about this is what Nvidia and AMD are kind of trying to push to the consumer is our next generation chips are much more efficient. So you can have less power consumption, which means that the other components that you have to buy for your computer are less expensive. You don't need so much power put through. You don't need a board that, puts through so much power, etc., right? But the other thing is the current GPUs, including like the one in PlayStation 5, don't have very good upscaling or frame gen capabilities. So they're saying, well, the games on the developer side might run like crap, but we have this technology, so now you'll get 60 frames per second every time, and you'll have resolution that is stable, if not upscaled to 4K. So they're promising things that I think you don't value, but I do value having a better image quality because I'm very sensitive to those things. Like if an image starts to look muddy, or if I see aliasing or dithering, like all those things kind of stand out to me. And so for me, there is some value in that. But I do think that from their perspective, they're saying, well, also there's this ability to potentially bring AI in, and so the game adapts to you. So one of the devs was like, one of the demos was like, you're playing a game, and based off of your choices, the game is completely regenerated, and like everything looks different, etc. Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that there are new gameplay experiences that could be opened up by this technology. Now the cost is something I can't say that I can jive with. Yeah. You know, Nvidia is now saying that the 5090 is going to be $5,000. I can't do $5,000 just for the GPU. Not even for the motherboard. That's going to be specific motherboards that can put through the power that's necessary. Not even for the RAM, which is also tripling in price. I don't think that I, even as a super enthusiast graphics whore, can do that. Yeah. But I am interested in frame gen. I am interested in upscaling. And I am interested, believe it or not, in having adaptive gameplay. Where maybe then, like where we were talking about where winds meet, where there's an AI character in the game, they don't have to make server calls for that. It can be something run on device. That would be interesting to me. But we'll have to see. I mean, the rumors are kind of bubbling up. I'm seeing quite a bit of them about this PlayStation 6 being a portable or home console, and Xbox, whatever they're doing, and cloud gaming, etc. You're saying you're not seeing much of it, so I guess we'll have to see. But until then, stay sassy.
Stay sassy.